Welcome to Edison Open House Transport Futures 2021. In this session, we're showcasing the work of Pensana, an extraordinary company building the world's first sustainable magnet metal chain. With me is its chairman, Paul Atherley. Paul, hello.
Hello, Vivian, how are you?
I'm good, I think. So explain to us, first of all, the problems that there are with rare earth magnets.
So basically, we're all participating in this green revolution, and the tangible parts of it we can see are offshore wind turbines and electric vehicles. And just in the case of electric vehicles, as you know, all an electric vehicle is a very large lithium-ion battery that provides electricity to drive axial motors. Now, I think the point that's been missed, the reason why those axial motors are so powerful and the reason why they're so small is because of permanent magnets, and they're called rare earth permanent magnets. And by way of example, these magnets will lift 500 times their own weight. So all that happens is on an electric vehicle is the electricity from the battery goes into the magnets that drives the copper coil, which creates the rotation. And the power is phenomenal. I was chatting to somebody the other day, and it turns out that the Porsche Taycan Turbo S accelerates from 0 to 60 faster than Lewis Hamilton does in his F1 McLaren. So that gives you some idea how powerful these magnets are. What makes them powerful is this combination of neodymium, praseodymium, iron, and boron. It's a complex alloy, but basically it's the rare earth combination. And right now, 98% of those magnets come from China. So every one of the EVs that we buy and the permanent magnets for the offshore wind turbines, currently they virtually all come from China. So what we're doing is building the world's first fully sustainable rare earth supply chain here in the UK.
So sure, yes, of course, there's a supply chain problem because of coming from China. But talk me through the sustainability element, because they're not mined in a clean way, are they?
Sure, that's right. So half of the rare earths that are mined in China come from a very, very large tailings dam called Bayan Obo, which is in northern Inner Mongolia. And that has been described as a dystopian lake to fulfill our tech lust by the BBC. And it's had all sorts of environmental issues associated with it. And then for the other half, there are 800 unlined tailings dams in China associated with the rare earth mining. So by any standard, you couldn't possibly describe the rare earths coming out of China as sustainable. So what we're doing is creating a fully sustainable supply chain from our mine in Angola. We have a hydroelectric power, so it's green electricity. We have a tailings facility designed to world-class standards and to Church of England guidelines. And using a railway line and a port, we bring very, very clean, high-value material to the UK. And the bit about the UK is to understand is that we're going to, in this case, Humber, which is a free port, and we're part of the net zero of that industrial cluster. And just to give you some couple of examples of where we think the UK can help lead the world in this area, is we're basically looking at smart chemistry. And both in Angola and certainly in the Saltend facility. And the smart chemistry means we'll no longer be using fossil fuel-based chemicals, that's kerosene and oil-based chemicals in the process. We'll be using more sustainable materials. So first of all, we're using hydroelectric power, fully world-class tailings facilities in Angola, railway lines rather than diesel trucks. And then in the UK, we're using what we call smart chemistry, which is avoiding the use of fossil fuels, which mean that we have companies that will evaluate our life cycle analysis. We'll be able to sell our rare earths with kilograms of CO2 produced per ton of the material, so that when you buy your Porsche Taycan, Vivian, you will be able to see the kilograms of CO2 of the raw materials that go into it. And if I can just extend the conversation a little bit further, this isn't just wishful thinking in terms of us producing a highly desirable product and hoping to get a premium. This is going to be enshrined in law. So the European Union came out a year or so ago and said, we're now going to have a directive that says it's no longer acceptable to mine materials unsustainably, import them into the European Union anymore. You're going to pay a thing called a carbon border adjustment mechanism, basically a carbon border tax. Well, the UK just today, just in the newspaper today, a minister came out and said we're going to have a very similar thing in the UK. So we're very much at the forefront of that, of saying we want a green economy, but the raw materials that go into that green economy have to be sourced sustainably, and we've got to measure it and giving consumers the ability to see the kilograms of CO2 per ton of material extracted. Vivian, I hope that helps explain what we're trying to achieve.
Indeed, but why did you choose the UK? I mean, obviously we're both from the UK, so we'd like it to be in the UK, but why particularly the UK?
Well, first of all, I'd like to bring manufacturing back to the UK personally, but on an economic and technical front, we compared the three ports, Merseyside, Tees Valley, and Humber, alongside Saxony in Germany. And there's absolutely no question that Humber and Tees Valley are world-class industrial chemical clusters. So that was one. Two is we were able to go into these things called a chemical park. So in Saltend, our facility in Humber, is actually the old BP Chemicals Park, and it's now owned by the PX Group. And so we just arrived there and put our processing facility there. They provide the power, the water, the reagents, the access to the port, the administration, the car park, everything. So basically it's plug and play. And the third area, which is a huge advantage, is the cost base, in particular the labor cost base. You've got talking about an incredibly highly skilled workforce up there that is got chemical engineering in its DNA, and by world standards, it's very low cost. So overall, we've got the free port provides us with frictionless trade, bringing material in and out. We've got the plug and play, and we've got this very, very low cost base.
So is your location very important then?
Yes, it's important from a European perspective. So it's a free port, which means we can have frictionless trade. Most of the gigafactories are being built in Europe, as you know. We expect at least one to be built in the UK. So we bring material in, process it. If we take it into the UK, we go through the UK infrastructure. If we want to export particularly to Germany, then we can export through frictionless trade. So our location is to do with Europe, and it's to do with being in a free port.
Now, take me through the recycling part of all of this, because gone are the days when we just gaily threw away our rare earth containing tech into some landfill site.
Well, that's the exciting area, and we've talked about it. So we are in discussion with Equinor. Equinor are one of the main proponents of building the offshore wind farms off the UK in Dogger Bank, and they're putting very, very large 260-meter high offshore wind turbines. And what makes those wind turbines work, if I can just digress a little, the onshore wind turbines used to have a combination motor and a gearbox, but that limited the height because you used to have to be able to get up to service the gearbox. As soon as they were able to create a direct drive wind turbine, which is basically the wind turbine turns a copper coil inside a very, very large permanent magnet, there's no limit to the height. So they've already got 12 to 15 megawatt turbines, 260 meters high, going to Dogger Bank. As I understand it, they've got plans for 20 megawatts and 30 megawatts per turbine. And that's because of this direct drive. So those wind turbines are huge, huge permanent magnets. The smaller version of them is about 7 tons of permanent magnets. So when we look at recycling, we think about recycling those nacelles, the hubs of those wind turbines. So we've done a study on taking down those end-of-life wind turbines, bringing the nacelles back to Saltend, and using hydrogen to do what's called hydrogen decrepitation, to break down those magnets and turn it back into an oxide and a metal and recreate the circular economy. So it's in the future, Vivian, but we're starting now. We've started the studies, we're starting the work, and it won't be long. Things don't last long in the North Sea, as you know, so it won't be long for those wind turbines need to be recycled, and we're hoping to grow our business by recycling the wind turbines and putting them back into for future years.
So recycling is part of your story, but what about other geographical sources of rare earth magnets other than China? Because there are deposits elsewhere in the world, aren't there, including in the UK?
That's right. There's lots of rare earth deposits around the world. Very few of them are economic. And what makes them economic is having processing capability that we have in the UK. So you're exactly right. We are talking to a number of parties such that we can expand the facility at Saltend to bring high value rare earth material from different parts of the world to the UK. And we're describing Saltend as a rare earth processing hub, initially bringing in material from around the world in a sustainable manner, but in the future, reprocessing offshore wind turbines to create the circular economy.
And how do you see the market developing for rare earths?
Well, we look at what the experts say, and then one of them is Adamas Intelligence. They've been correctly forecasting the demand for this for some time now. And they're talking about, for the balance of this decade, a 5 to 9% compound average growth rate. And thereafter, they describe it as unfathomable. So as most of the commentators, I'm sure, will say, beyond about 2030, when electric vehicles and offshore wind turbines hit their straps, there's going to be shortages in metals. There's going to be shortages in supply. So we're very, very excited about getting going now, because we want to get going, expand as fast as we can, and be there ready to supply that burgeoning demand post 2030.
This looks like a very prescient move on the behalf of Pensana, but what about the funding? Have you got adequate funding?
Yeah, so we've got three elements of the main finance. One is we're talking to the Automotive Transformation Fund, the UK government, who you're aware of, and we're past the first stage with them, and we're in quite detailed negotiations with them. And I can share with you, as you're probably aware, we're quite near the top of the list for them, so that's very exciting. We're also a long way down the track with loosely described as bond finance. There's an awful lot of money going into climate bonds, green bonds, sustainability bonds. So that's a whole pool of capital looking to invest in things like as the Saltends of this world. Basically, they're looking to invest in the building blocks to the green economy. And then finally is the UK institutional investors now is the EU taxonomy on sustainable investment has made it very, very clear that institutional investors have to show that they're investing sustainably. So it's not just ESG funds, all funds now have to demonstrate that. So we now have a very, very large audience of institutional investors in London who we believe will be very interested in our offering. So down the track on all three of those.
So you've ticked the resilience box in terms of supply chain, you've ticked the environmental box, you're beginning to address the relocating the supply, and that really puts Pensana in a very strong position. How do you see Pensana's future over the next 5 years?
As I've described to you, we're on the ground now. We're clearing the site, ready to start building at Saltend. It will kick off and do 4,500 tons per year, middle of 2023. That's 5% of the world market, and then look to expand. So we'll look to expand that with future incremental supply from alternative sources. And then the two areas that we mentioned, one is we're very, very keen to do this recycling with Equinor using this novel process of hydrogen decrepitation. Lots of talk about using hydrogen as an energy source is actually way more powerful in breaking down steel. So hydrogen decrepitation process for recycling. And then the other one, which didn't touch on too much, was we're looking not just to produce a rare earth oxide, we're looking to produce a rare earth metal, so metal manufacture at Saltend. So we see the company growing in those three areas and see no limit to its potential expansion as we go forward.
And where are you in the kind of the competition space? Who else is doing this thing, or are you unique?
We're definitely not unique. We definitely have competition. We'd like to think there's only one rare earth mine and producer of these rare earth magnet metal oxides in the world at the moment, and that's Lynas Corporation in Australia, which is currently relocating its facilities from Malaysia to Australia. And they basically supply the Japan, Korea, and China markets. And then we have another competitor in the US called MP Materials, who are developing a mine and a separation facility in California. And they I understand, are looking to supply the US market. So we like to think we've got our noses in front in Europe. We think we're the big European player, and we're the only one that's set up in a port. So Lynas is inland in Kalgoorlie, MP Materials is inland in California. So we think we've got our noses in front, we're boots on the ground, we're starting building, and importantly, we're in a free port in the heart of Europe.
This is terrific, Paul. It's such an important area of endeavour in future transport, and I've been delighted to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Really enjoyed that.